All right, guys. Hey, welcome back to the Monday Morning Mindset Podcast. Paul McLean here, and I've got a very special guest that I want to give a proper introduction to. But let me just tell you, let me just advise you, let me implore you, go get a pen, a piece of paper, an iPad. This is not just a podcast to lean into and just be a participant. No, or a spectator, you want to be a participant. You want to take notes, you want to make notes. What does that mean? Well, as you're taking notes, you're making notes. Like, how do I apply this? How good am I doing from a 1 to 10 with this? How do I change this? And really use this as a springboard to make this the best day yet. And because that is my goal, is to provide you significant value where this week is better than next week. And you can really get off this podcast and you can run through your goals today. And so, with that said, guys, I've got a special guest. This is somebody that is issue paid on average over the past 5 years. If you average it 43,000 a month, he's had years where he's issue paid over 500,000 in production, which is a big deal. But the bigger deal, I think, is his team. Now that's doing 450,000 a month. The average producer on his team is around 20,000. Now the industry average is like 6, 7. So he's 3x the industry average. So he's not just great at producing at a high level, but he's also a great teacher and can help others go out there and do what he's done. And that's what he's going to do today. He's going to teach you the mindset of a top producer, and we're going to unpack this. So guys, let's welcome Ryan Koske. Ryan, good to have you on with us, brother.
Yeah, Paul, it's an absolute honor. I'm super excited to be here when you asked me because, back in the day, when you had been doing these, they were very, very impactful for me. I remember every Monday morning on my drive to the office, like this is what I was listening to. I would wait for it to drop, you know what I'm saying? I would tune in, I would listen, got a ton of value. By far, my favorite calls were the ones with you. And then I even remember one time when you were doing little lead giveaways, and I was down real bad, as a brand new agent, and I won like I don't know $250 in leads, and I popped off with 3 deals from it, and that got me back on top. So just want to say thank you to you for always giving back and having that mindset and mentality of sharing the knowledge and everything that you have. It's made an incredible impact to this point, and no doubt it will continue.
I appreciate that, man. Well, maybe we should do that. That's a thought. Maybe we should do a lead giveaway. Maybe next week we have a lead giveaway. And because I think that, for one, God's going to honor and open up doors if you're stewarding and giving whatever you're doing your whole heart. And as you plug in and you're a student of this business, maybe that was the very thing that helped bless you and opened up that door, like you said, to keep this thing going. And thank God it did, because now you've made a massive difference on not just your life, Ryan, but also the lives of the agents that you work with, because there's no question that you've got a lot of people finding success with your average issue paid producer. And so really want to unpack that. Like, obviously you've done a great job to develop that yourself. You've also done a great job in helping teach others how to think like a top producer. And I do believe, Ryan, that before the skills, before the mechanics, comes the mindset. Like when you step onto the phones, and I've seen this, Ryan, over and over again, where somebody has a phone script so dialed in, they're saying all the words, they don't miss a beat, but they are just getting smoked. And then I have another person that, and I remember one time I walked in and this guy was calling, leads, and he had made a sell. And I said, let me see the lead you're calling. Well, he was calling final expense leads, but he was using the mortgage protection script. I was like, dude, they don't even
Yeah.
have a mortgage. And he was closing it because it wasn't about, like, it was just his mindset. Like, he just believed that he was the doctor, they were the patient. And so I want to kind of start with that because, if you don't have your mind right, nothing else typically goes right. Even if you've got the script and that you're using it, you'll say things in a way that doesn't come across like it needs to. So where was your breakthrough? And was that a big breakthrough with you going from just kind of getting by to becoming that top producer? Was like an identity shift in how you saw yourself, and kind of unpack what that looked like and how do you see yourself as you dial and call these families?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, the biggest breakthrough, and I'll try to keep the story part of this short, but I was down real bad. Like I hadn't gotten paid for 28 days in a row, a mix of, some poor decisions, lack of effort, back in my first year in the industry. And I was like 2 weeks late on my rent. I probably had 10x the amount of debt for leads, that I had money in my bank account late on rent. And I just remember at the time we were in person, so I'm driving 2.5 hours up to Wisconsin to go run appointments. I remember the entire drive up there. I knew like if I don't sell something today or tomorrow, like my career's over. Like I'm going back to mowing lawns. Like that's it. And I remember that first day on Tuesday. didn't sell anything all day. Wednesday, halfway through the day, hadn't closed anything. And I just remember being so frustrated with myself. I knew I was better. I knew I could do more. But what I was doing is I really, really needed to make a sale. Like literally and figuratively. Like mentally, I had to have a sale. Physically, like I needed the money to make sales. And my intentionality going into the call was I was trying to make a sale. And when that's the case, Paul, if you know my relationship with you is purely based on something that I need to get from you, well, it doesn't feel like a genuine, it doesn't create trust from your end, right? And so I remember 4 appointments in, I didn't close anything. I heard somebody say on a podcast, "Hey, brother, just be you. Don't try to make a sale. Just try to get a buying decision." And I was like, you know what? I was like, 100%. Like I need these people that can smell my commission breath. So I went in there. I stopped trying to be everybody else. I was like, dude, I crushed it my first month. I'm just going to go back to exactly what I was doing when I was killing it. And I'm just going to forget about, everything else. And I'm just going to try to get a buying decision. I don't care what they say. I just want them to say yes or no. God will put the people in front of me. And I remember praying before I go into that appointment, God, help put the people in front of me that need my help and help me get rid of the other ones fast. Like that's it. I just want to find the people who need my help. And I remember I closed the next three in a row. And I don't, after that month, I haven't, when I've written full time, I haven't issue paid less than 30,000. So that was really the two big things for me was a confidence and then my intentionality behind why am I approaching this individual in this conversation? Is it because I need money and I'd like to get a sale, or is it to help and do the best thing that's the best thing for the client, put them in the best position possible and just get a buying decision? That's what I would say it was for me.
Man, I love that. I think for one, like it's just that pause that you sit back and say, okay, let me really kind of adjust my intentions. Like, what's
Yeah.
my intention here? My intention is to serve this family. My intention is to connect with them, touch a heart before I ask for a hand, really kind of let them know that I care about them and that I'm there to help them, walk through this process to get a plan and get that peace of mind that they're looking for. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to like lose that, Ryan, especially with like, everybody has life that takes place. I did a call earlier today and I was like, man, nobody has a market corner for just stuff and crap happening. And
Yeah.
maybe more than others and maybe at different times, but it happens and it's going to happen. And so the question though is, are you intentionally doing some things? Do you have some pause moments that allow you to kind of just say, okay, let me compartmentalize, let me shut that down, and let me get my intention right where I'm here to serve this family. And I think that's such a big deal. I can't remember what book it was, but it talked about like prioritize, visualize, and actualize.
Mm.
That's what you did. Like you prayed. You're like, God, just help me release any thoughts, any feelings, any emotions that are going to keep me from doing what I'm called to do in this moment, right? Let me maximize this moment. Let me be purposeful and present in this moment. And that helps you kind of just stop and get in alignment, right? And then it's like, let me visualize what I need to do and who I am and remind myself of that they filled the form out, go through the conversation, me saying this, them responding like that, me going through the prices and picking a plan out,
Mm.
me asking for the banking information. They easily give it to me because they're hoping they get to make a payment because if they make a payment, they're protected. Them saying thank you so much and being so grateful and so excited and so happy. Like visualize all of that. And then once you've done that, go actualize, go act, take the action, do it. And I love that, right? That's such a practical thing that everybody watching today can hop off and do. And man, I'm telling you, it's a big deal. It
Yeah.
lays the foundation for the way it's going to actually go. And I love that. Ryan, how do you, when you're working with agents, right? And I think that, you know, you're in the same understanding that it's probably 80% is mindset, 20% is mechanics.
Oh
I've
yeah.
seen you work in Chicago at the lock-in man. You did such a phenomenal job in just doing different things, even putting out different scenarios of role playing of trying to sell something, and then you kind of like dude, it was so good. Like how do you help build certainty for the agents when they're getting ready to make a phone call? Like, how do you help them cultivate this certainty that, this is important, that this client's going to make a buying decision? Like, how do you help them with that?
Yeah, I think that for the most part, it comes from like preparedness, right? The saying knowledge is power. Like that's like 50%. I think that was true 50 years ago when we didn't have social media, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have podcasts, and knowledge was difficult to come by, right? Like you had to go to college to get more knowledge, right? Dang, that rhymed. I'm a G. Anyway, so nowadays anybody can have that knowledge. And it's a biblical principle that, knowledge is not power. What is applied knowledge? And the scriptures call it wisdom. That's applied knowledge is power. So we have so many trainings inside of Pinnacle. Dude, there's so much more than there was. I was one of those guys that was dialing with the wrong script. I had bought Final Expense Leads and I was dialing with the mortgage script. I was one of those guys my first day. But so what we try to do is apply the knowledge that you have to different situations, and you'll be able to, think and react real time in the moment when you're in front of a client. So, I try to make it a really big point of like understanding sales outside of insurance, right? If the only thing I can sell is insurance, well, then I'm not a salesperson, I'm a script reader. I can sit here and I can read a list of specific words in a specific order. And unless you respond exactly as I had planned for you to respond, I'm going to have no clue how to deal with whatever objection it is that you have. So just understanding sales at a deeper level outside of insurance really helps like start to give agents that confidence, and then helping them understand, and this is the big portion, helping them understand that it's math. Selling insurance, it's not sales, okay? It's math. This sells itself. There's two things that are guaranteed in life, Paul: death and taxes. And guess what life insurance helps with? Death and taxes. So everybody needs this. Statistically, every American buys life insurance 8 times throughout their career. I think there's something like 370 million people. I don't know what 370 million times 8 is, but there's that many opportunities for me to sell life insurance. The only thing I need to think about is how do I talk to enough people today? If I talk to enough people today, I'm going to sell. But the days where I talk to two or three and I'm sitting there and I'm overthinking and I'm wallowing in my misery and I have a pity party because nobody wants to buy, everybody's broke, everybody's too busy, Christmas is coming up. It's like, brother, you talked to 3 people today. What are we talking about? Go talk to 30 people and then we can have something to talk about. But it's literally just a numbers game. And all the numbers say that if you have like a 35 to 40% closing ratio, you're going to crush it. You're going to do super well. And so my agents, I try to get them to that 35 to 40% closing ratio as fast as possible. And then from there, we just focus on the numbers, right? We focus on skill till you're at 35 to 40%. The rest of it comes after that. Increasing your closing ratio from 40% to 60% is incredibly hard to do and yields diminishing returns. But if you can close at 45% and just talk to 3 times the amount of people, where your closes are going to go up by 3x, versus if you talk to the same amount of people and increase your closing ratio by 60%, you might only close 1 or 2 extra people a week, maybe even a month. So that's what it is for us. It's just wisdom, applying that knowledge to the situations, that applied knowledge, understanding how to use sales. And then from there, once you're okay skill set wise, focusing on the numbers and just talking to enough people. And when you get a hold of that, it's a deadly combo if you can master it.
Dude, you are my guy, bro. I'm just sitting here thinking like we could have a 5 hour conversation. Like
Yeah,
what you just said is so good. Like what you're helping them create the right story and narrative of how to see this thing. So
yeah,
that way, when they get on the phones and they get a person that rejects them and doesn't hang up, they don't start to easily drift into this whole other story of like maybe this won't work out. I mean, hopefully I can get a sell, and
mm,
they start to embody because of the story they tell themselves. Their identity shifts to the salesperson of like, hopefully I can make a sell. Hopefully they don't hang up on me.
yeah,
Hopefully like I can keep them on the phone. Well, dude, you're gonna suck if that's your identity in the story you told yourself is like, I'm just a salesperson. Maybe I can get one, right? No, 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 no. But if you tell the story that you're saying, Ryan, which is like everybody needs this. The most important thing that's ever going to happen is when somebody dies, a financial hardship on top of an emotional loss of losing a mom or a daughter or a sibling. Those are the two hardest things anybody could ever go through in their entire life.
yeah,
We provide a solution when both of those hardest things that they could ever go through run together on a head-on collision. Like, how valuable is that? The only thing that's guaranteed is death and taxes. We helped them with both. Like all those things. That's the story that the agent has to keep and ruminate on and go over
mm,
and over and over and over again. That's what keeps them in the right place, in the right state to actually continue through the process until the result shows up. And it's such a big deal. Right now I was thinking like, it was probably like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I was buying this Porsche Taycan Turbo. Like, dude, I was fired
Yeah.
up. It's what you get when you find out you have four daughters. You're like,
Yep.
I need something that to produce testosterone against the estrogen I have in my house. So the funny thing was like, I had got it shipped over. I was signing paperwork with my wife, at the house. They came over to notarize or whatever, right? Well, my mother-in-law walks in and she's like, now, be clear, dude. At the time, Koski, I've been married to my wife for like 13 years, right?
Yeah.
She says, "What are you guys doing?" And I, sometimes I just feel like I got to keep her alive, so I mess with her. I said,
Yeah.
I said, we're signing a prenup. So she's like, so gives me this look, right? Like, and so she leaves. I don't know nothing else about her, right? Like it was a joke. I thought she would realize that, you can't sign a pre-nump after you've been married, right? Like
Yeah.
whole pre part. But she didn't. And so like she got sick to her stomach. She
No.
was calling like my sister like, can you believe I wonder how their marriage is going? Like why would he have her sign a prenup now? Like why
Yeah.
would they do that now? And so in her mind, she's going back through and like, all the different things that had taken place up until
Mm.
that point. Like, the other night when I walked over there, they didn't give each other that same look of love like I remember they
Yeah.
used to giving, and he
Hmm.
didn't come give her a hug when he first walked in. So like now all these things are spotlighting and screaming at her to support evidence to a falsified story that's not even true, right?
Hmm.
And I finally we find out that she was struggling with this. I call her, I'm like, Gina, like you can't sign a prenup after I was joking. I'm
Yeah.
buying this car, right? But she was sick to her stomach, dude. Like literally couldn't get out of bed next day because she was worried. Like, now she's saying, well, they're gonna get divorced, and they
Mm.
got four kids. Like, what are gonna happen with the four kids? The four kids, now we got a generational. Like, she's going through all this stuff.
Yeah.
She's spinning. That's what agents do. What
Yeah.
you just did is you help them not spin and get them realize that the truth is that there's two things guaranteed, taxes and death, and we provide a solution for both of those.
Yeah.
And that most people will buy insurance 8 times. So if they can ruminate on that and that be their story, they're not going to have their emotion get all out of whack and start believing a story that's going to lead them to death
Yeah.
in this business. And so such a powerful, powerful thing, man. Talk about, in this vein of emotions, right? Like, how does somebody not ride this emotional roller coaster? Like, what are some emotional disciplines that kind of that separate the top producers from the lower level producers? What would those be? What are these emotional disciplines?
Yeah, I truly think, if we can boil everything down to one thing, Paul, emotional disciplines, right? And it's consistency. Um, because consistency is the buffer between like you and catastrophe, right? I did the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, right? And his whole thing is you need to have one of the baby steps is have an emergency fund. Because if your AC blows out, not a big deal. 3 grand, fix it. But if you only have like $500, well, now I got to go into debt for 5 times my net worth to try to fix my AC. That's catastrophe, right? And the only thing that was there was that, emergency fund. Well, your emergency fund as a sales professional is how long have you been consistent for, right? It's kind of like you're building a wall. If you think back in ancient times, we would build walls to keep invaders from coming out, right? If you're consistent for a day, you got one brick on the wall. And you can't be upset, when people are hurling stuff over your one brick and it's hitting you in the face, right? You're like, dude, I built the wall. It's like, brother, you showed up for a day, okay? But when you're consistent for a number of weeks, months, years, and it keeps getting higher and higher, the stuff doesn't get to you. The emotions, they don't get to you. Sure, they're there, but it's like, yeah, I didn't sell her. Yeah, 82-year-old grandma Jean just beat the crap out of me on the phones, but like, who cares? I've got this giant stack of leads in front of me. I've been consistent for the last 4 months, so I'm not even going to feel this. But the problem is, Paul, those emotions feel incredibly overwhelming and drowning when one no stands between you and catastrophe, and that's it. Like I've got one shot, one opportunity. And I think for me in this area, I want agents to focus on instead of like how do I deal with the emotions when they come up, how can we like avoid this problem from happening? Like can we act in a way? Can we be proactive and make sure that we never have to deal with this? Because you know how difficult it is to be able to pull an agent up from rock bottom. No money for leads, in debt, doubting themselves, don't think they can sell, right? But like, can I avoid getting myself in? I tell my leaders that your job as a mentor is to raise that rock bottom for your agents. Because in my opinion, everybody has to hit rock bottom, Paul. Like you kind of got to learn some of your own lessons. At some point, you're going to hit rock bottom. Now, a good mentor will raise that rock bottom. So instead of it being when you're completely out of money that you decide to lock in, well, now it's like, okay, I'm not completely out of money, but I can see it happening in a month or two. I got to get serious now. And that's what a good mentor does is they raise that rock bottom to give yourself a buffer because I don't think we're built to deal with the complex level of emotions that we have with like social media and all the money that we can make and all the trouble that it can put us in. Like we're not, like society's not supposed to be this much in debt. So I don't think the solution is always like, how do I deal with it when it's there? It's how do I avoid it? But when it is there, that's where the consistency is your savior, right? Because when you do have those emotions come up, you're doubting yourself, you haven't made a sale in a minute, and you really need some money, what gives you the confidence to perform is past wins, right? Dude, I've done the same thing for 6 months. I've said the same exact thing. There's no doubt in my mind. I can go out there and perform this again, right? Hey, every single time I buy leads, I yield a 6.3x ROI. So when all comes crashing down, all right, how much debt happened? What is it that happened here or there? Um, I remember I had a weekend, Paul, when I was in person where I got in a car accident and I was, cheap. So I had the cheapest possible car insurance I could. So my deductible was like 3,500. My car got stolen and I had a business partner in another venture that stuck me with like 7 grand or so that I had to pay back that was from him. So overall it was like a 12K weekend. And I'm not exaggerating at all when I say this. I that all hit within the span of about an hour and a half that I found out about all that. I got in the accident, and then those other two things happened. And instead of wallowing in my misery, what I did was I did some math. I said, okay, I make $25.27 per dial. Okay, so $12,000 divided by 27 or 25 25.27 is 474 dials. And I was like, okay, how fast can I get out of this? I was like, if I, maybe I do this, okay, cool, I can do 237 dials a day and I'll be done in 2 days. I'll be completely paid back. And normally at the time I made 60 to 80 dials a day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I locked in, I did over 200 dials, and by Friday like I had all of that paid off and I was positive again. So I think that that's what it is. The consistency is what gives you the belief, the conviction. It's what gives you the confidence, and it's what creates that protection, that buffer, between those catastrophic emotions. If that makes sense.
Dude, it makes perfect sense, man. It's so good. It's like shifting from the problem to the solution, right?
Yeah,
Like if we're so focused on the problem that's at hand, we can't even identify and see the solution, and then all we're going to be left with is a high emotional state that's set on a negative place that's
yeah,
just going to beget more negative things, right? And then it's like, well, how did that lead to this and this and this and this? And now you look up like, dude, what the heck happened? Well, we just needed to pause
yeah,
and find the solution. And I love that, man. Like how many dials does it need to take? And then you realize like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
yeah,
Because initially everything seems a lot worse until we pause and then look for the solution and realize that this is an absolute numbers game, that they can't beat you and you can't beat them. They are what they are. There's no emotion. So anytime you're feeling really emotional, go to something that's unemotional. Numbers.
yeah,
Numbers
mm,
are not emotional. They are what they are, right? And so I absolutely love that. I mean, I remember even looking at like, if I wanted to go buy something or if I needed to take care
yeah,
of something, like, okay, that's just so many policies, right? I remember
mhm,
my wife, she went one time to a meeting and we were talking about that. I was showing the opportunity and she heard about every family you help, it's like $1,000 or whatever. And so she's like, I kind of want a new Escalade. And I was like, well,
yeah,
that's great, babe, that you want a new Escalade. She's like, that's only like 120 policies, right? Like just 120, families to help. And so, I was like, well, I'm not ever having you come to a meeting again in your entire life. You're not very invited. But
yeah,
it really is the way we should look at things. Like how many policies, how many families do I need to serve to take care of this or to get this or to be able to buy that, whatever it is, right? Like, or to save this or to invest in this. And so I absolutely love that. And knowing, for everybody on here, the question to you is, do you know how much you make per dial? Do you know how much you make per contact? Even the ones that hang up on you, that just are a contact. Do you know how much you make every time you give a presentation? Not a sale, but how much money you make every time you give a presentation. And you know
Mhm.
how much money you make every time you actually help a family. And if you know those numbers, it's going to allow you to build some security and like you said, Koski, like hedge against that emotion that's going to try to run its way in anytime an issue and a problem takes place, because things are going to happen. The
Yep.
reality is you responded right. If you would have reacted to that $12,000 hour, it could have took you out of business. But
Hmm.
you responded right and you actually, it was a benefit. Like you got better
Yep.
because of it. You got more dialed in, more you were able to have another success story that the next time a big problem happened, you could say, "Oh yeah, let me handle it like I handled it before." It's kind of like David. He's like, "Dude, I've already defeated a lion and a bear. Like, who's this uncircumcised
Yeah.
Philistine? Like, this dude's about to go down." Like, that's what you want to get to a place, but you got to respond right, or you'll never have a lion and a bear story. The lion
Hmm.
kills you, right? Like, it just allows you to build and build and build up this faith muscle of like, this ain't no big deal, dude.
Yep.
And then you grow. Now, through that $12,000, situation, maybe going into that Koski, you're at a level 6 person, like
Yeah.
leadership, but now on the other side of it, you're a level 7. What does that
Hmm.
mean? That means now when you deal with a level 7 issue, it won't take you out like it would have been 4. So it's just building yourself up so you can deal with bigger things because you're a bigger person. And so I
Yep.
love that. I absolutely love that. That pre-decision of saying, even before you get on the phones, like if they hang up on you, you get a charge, what, how are you going to respond? And pre-deciding outside of the emotion being there. So that way, when the emotion shows up, you've already made a commitment to a decision that you're going to make without it. So that helps you build that response muscle, not a reaction. Reaction's always bad. Response is usually always going to be good, right? Do you do anything, Koski, as far as like, getting your mind right? If you've had a day where, because even though we know these things, I'd be lying to everybody if I didn't say that there was
Yeah.
moments that I got caught in an emotion for too long, and it had a longer lasting negative effect than it should have. Um, Anything that you do to kind of help get yourself out of that when you start to fall into it, like practically that you do?
For sure. Yeah. I always find it helps to find the source. Okay. Because emotions they're a symptom, right? When you have an emotion, there's a problem. When my wife's angry at me, she's not just angry to be angry. You know what I'm saying? Not that she gets angry at me at that much, but there's something that went wrong, right? So when you have those emotions, let's identify it. So what I teach all my agents to do is, whenever I'm going through it, because I would, and like you said, I wish I could not doubt, that I can sell, but to this day, I'll like approach a dial session like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I lost it, right? But so what I do when I have those moments, or actually 2 weeks ago, I went 0 for 7 on closes, which based on my numbers should literally never happen to me. The world would be falling apart if it happens. And so I have four things that I kind of go through and I ask myself for like checkpoints. Okay. Number one is, and it's all about what changed. Number one is, did my workflow change? Okay. So have I been working less than I was before? Okay. And if I, let's say, coming up with the holidays, let's say I have a bad 2 weeks of January and then I'm like, okay, I'm doubting myself. What happened? Oh, well, I took a week and a half off for Christmas. So that killed some of my momentum. Cool, it was that. Now I just need to lock in. I need to do that extra work that I missed while I was out, and I'll be right back on top. So the first thing is workflow. The second thing is your lead flow. Did lead flow change? Did you change lead vendors, lead types? Did you start spending more on leads? Did you start spending less on leads? The different type of lead? Did you start doing anything different in your process? And if you go through it systematically like this, you can identify what led to the problem that you're having. So if nothing changed on workflow, nothing changed on lead flow, the next thing is your process. Okay, what in your sales process changed? Did you add something new? Did you take some stuff away? Have you been getting lazy? Have you just been clocking out? There's points in my career where I just approach it too much like a numbers game, and I'm sitting here going through the emotions, or going not the emotions. I'm going through the motions. Like I'm just literally zoned out, playing a game on my phone, trying to close a deal, and I'm not thinking, you know what I'm saying? It's just happening on autopilot. And there's been times in my career where I'm like, dude, I gotta lock back in. I gotta pay attention. I gotta be interested in these people. Like instead of just interested in getting a sale, I gotta be interested in this person. So did something change in your sales process? If something changed, go back to what you were doing before. and keep doing your thing. And if none of those three things are what's changed, if yeah, workflow's the same, lead flow's the same, sales process is the same, then it's your mindset. And something happened that caused you to lose confidence. It could be as simple as somebody being rude to you, cussing you out over the phone. It could be a really good callback that you had that didn't go your way. Or maybe a big policy you sold got declined or charged back. And you got to understand that this emotion that I'm feeling, this is one isolated incident. I've got to remove that isolated incident and operate as if it never happened. Because the reality is, those things are always going to happen. You can't choose whether or not they happen, but you can choose how you respond. So, what I choose to do is identify that outlying incident, remove it from my memory, and then operate as if it never happened. And that's what really, really helps me. And helps, that I try to get my agents to be able to do to, kind of come back from the pit of despair, and hopefully you can realize it before you're there, you know what I'm saying? And you can start getting back on top before. But I go through those checkpoints. It's workflow, lead flow, sales process, and then what happened that gave me this bad mindset is the fourth thing.
Man, that's so, so good. I think for one, it's like being self-aware and really inspecting what just took place, because I think, Ryan, I've seen this happen too often where an agent just kind of loses it. And it's like they lose it because they're just trying to will their way through it.
Yeah.
They're not aware of like what
Yeah.
actually needs to be changed. And then sometimes it could be detrimental because you change the wrong thing, right? You're like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
redo your whole script. It's like, dude, it wasn't even your script. You just bought
Mhm.
less leads. You bought $300 in leads last week. You were used to
Yeah.
spending 1,200, and then you did it because a week prior you hit your goals on 300, and the week prior you hit your goals on 300. So this third week you spent 300, and you didn't realize that. Well, the wells ran dry, dude. Like
Yeah.
you got all these, before you were spending 1,200 for a month on end, had more people to call. Like you try to cheat the system, and now you got to pay the cost and the interest against you on it. Like that's the problem. Just increase your lead flow back to 1,200 and don't do it again. Right
Yeah.
away. Like you're going to be tempted because you'll have a week,
Yeah.
have a great result. It's kind of like, the agent that closes a one-legged appointment, and they're like, dude, you're wrong. Like you can close all one-legged appointments. It's like, dude, that cost you more than you think it did because now you're going to have 9 no sales in the future because it's 1 out of 10. You just happen to have the one in the wrong sequence. It's going to really screw you up now. Listen to the system. The system is invest $1,200 a week in leads, so $1,500. The system is use wave dialer, use this dialing system. Like the system is there. Did you stop doing it? So I absolutely love that. Koski, when you're calling families, um, like what are some things that you say to really kind of create this authority and where they see you as a professional and not a salesperson? Because I always say that when you're getting ready to call a family, you can't dictate how they're going to see you before you
Mm.
call. Like they could see you as a telemarketer, somebody that's going to rob them, and a lot of it is based off of this preconceived, thought that they have that's been built upon prior experiences, right? Maybe had somebody call that mentioned that they're calling for life insurance or whatever, and so now they're basically forecasting onto you what they've
Yeah.
experienced. But once you say hello, from that moment on, you do now have the ability to control how they see you. And the goal is to get them to shift from Koski's a salesperson, don't want to be on the phone with him, to wow, he's not a salesperson. He's a field underwriter, a professional. He's a person of value. And I'm honored and thankful and grateful that I'm on the phone with him. What do you do to help kind of help that shift take place?
Yeah. I think I want to make the distinction between salespeople and closers, right? Salespeople convince, closers lead. Salespeople talk, closers listen, right? And salespeople tell, closers ask, right? And I could go on all day with the difference there, but what your job is to do, it's to lead them in the correct direction, right? And I think we think our job, not I think. I am one of these people. And I think sometimes my job is to convince people to buy. Because that's like the stereotypical salesperson that you think of. Like they're convincing you why this product is so awesome. But when you can take a step back and understand I need to stop trying to get people to buy, and I just need to learn, or I need to stop trying to like sell people, trying to convince them to buy. I just need to learn how they buy things and lead them down that process.
Very
You'll
good.
start to be way more effective, and you'll go from a salesperson to a closer, right? Where now you're actually closing. And so a few things that I like to do, I wouldn't say I have specific questions, right? But like one or two specific things that I say. First of all, I'm very, very assumptive. I operate with the assumption that the only reason Paul filled out the form is to get covered for his wife. Therefore, the only reason I am calling Paul is to get him covered. Therefore, the only reason, the entire reason we're on the phone is to get you approved. So I operate with that assumption. I filter all my language, all my speech, all my thought through that filter, through that assumption. So I'm never saying, hey, if we find something that makes sense, I'm not making a decision for you. And I'm establishing early on that the goal of this call, Paul, is to find you something that protects Sarah. I don't know your wife's name, but Mark, Mary, whoever it is, Mary, the way that you want it to. And what we do is a lot of salespeople do, not closers. Closers don't do this. Salespeople do. Is we establish the goal of the call to show you options. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple options. And now we get to the end. Paul's like, great, you showed me options. Call is done. That's what I showed up for. We're good. And that's my fault because I established that as the North Star and the expectation of what we're trying to complete. But when you make it so that no, 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 the goal is not to show you options. Like I'm not the little quote boy. I'm not Jake from State Farm. You know, I might wear khakis, but that's not me. My job is to get you covered. And when you establish that as the thing we're here to do, the job's not done until they're covered, and they'll feel that. You'll feel them going a lot further down the process. So just starting with that assumption that they filled out the form to get covered. I'm calling to get covered. Everything we're doing and saying is solely to lead us down the path to get you approved for some mortgage protection, life insurance, final expense, whatever it is that you're selling, so that when something happens, we're prepared and the coverage is there for your family. I think that for me, that's the biggest thing that establishes that authority. Because, if you think of the doctor-patient analogy, which you use this one all the time, um, like, Paul, do you know why they have you put the robe on?
How would it think to like identify as a patient that's needing their help and what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. But they're the professionals. They tell you
Right.
to put the robe on. You put the robe on and you sit in the chair. They could think about it. They could have you sit in the chair that's off on the side and hit your little kneecap and check your ear. They don't have to have you put the robe on most of the time, but not a single one of us has ever thought, that's kind of dumb. Why do I got to put this robe? Like, what in the world? What is this about? But they're the authority. You booked an appointment to get help. They're showing up to help you. So we assume, as the patient heading in, that everything they're doing is to help us get better, is to help cure our ailment. So we don't question a thing that they tell us to do. And that's the power of operating with that assumption is we didn't even realize that's been happening to us our entire lives. When you go to the doctor's office, and it's so powerful that you don't even realize that it's happening. You're thankful to the doctor when you leave. You're like, Doc, thank you so much for making the time to see me. It's so awesome. Meanwhile, he's getting paid based on whatever he prescribes you and what he does for you, and how many times you go and see him. And that's the power of like operating with that assumption. And like I said, nobody is ever like, why did what I do this or that? They don't question why. But if you find your clients are often questioning, why are you asking this? Why do you need to know this? Can I think about it? Can we talk about it? Then your start of the call is probably wrong. Like you're not operating with that assumptive nature and assumptive language, if that makes sense.
Dude, this has been so good, so powerful. I mean, I think this is one of those podcasts that everybody should go back. And if you want to increase your close ratio, if you want to be able to just better serve your agents to go out there and help more clients, this is one. This is when you study. I mean, dude, Koski, so good. I mean, the assumptive filter, I absolutely love. And this is a choice that somebody gets to, that you get to choose what filter you're gonna hop on this call with, that you're gonna make with this client. You get to choose that. And,
Mhm.
it's such a big deal to choose the right one because then everything else means something different, right? It's kind of like, and then even like to the doctor, like they have a full waiting room. If they had a patient come in and be like, I'm not putting the robe on.
Yeah.
You creep. What are you trying to see? You trying to see something? Like,
Yeah.
keep your hands to yourself. Like the doctor's like, whoa, whoa, you weirdo. Like, I got, okay, you can leave now. Like, I don't care. Why? Because I got a full waiting room and I'm actually behind schedule. And that was kind of my thought I always had is when I would get a one row client, that would be my interpretation. It wasn't like, oh, maybe what I'm selling is not important. Oh, maybe I am a salesperson. I need to do a better job convincing them. No, it was just like, I got a weird one, but I've got a ton of families to call. My waiting room is full. And so it just changes everything to which you see it. And you realize that they are coming to the waiting room on their own accord. You didn't have to go persuade them into it. You didn't have to walk down the street and say, Koski, you're looking like you're breathing a little funny. And you're like, who are you? I'm Paul. I'm Dr. Paul. Are you really a doctor? Yeah, yeah. Like, you don't look too good. Like, can I see you in the office? The guy's like, no, you freaking weirdo. Let me see your credentials. Well, I don't have my, like, that'd be a lot of work. You're not gonna,
Yeah.
it's gonna take a lot of time. Like, we're not in that position. They've asked and they raise their hand. They say, I want help. I'm in the waiting room. Could you help me? Could you give me a call? Can you help me with my ailment? And I think even to the, circling back, Koski, to how we started, like when they understand how important what we sell is,
Yeah.
it gives us the ability to have that assumptiveness and that authority because you're not selling a car. I don't think you can come on with the same assumptiveness. Maybe you could, but it's not going to hold the same weight because we can definitely look at seeing a doctor if you've got chest pain. Man, that's the only thing you could think about. You're like,
Hmm.
it don't matter how much money you got. You're like, dude, what's up with this chest pain? And you want to have the doctor call you. You want to sit there. You want to be seen. Well, if we can create the right picture in their mind of
Yeah.
something that hasn't yet happened, but to get them to live in the fact as if it has and to feel the emotions, they're gonna have this same feeling of like, dude, my I need a solution for this chest pain. I need a
Hmm.
solution because when I die, not if when, my family's gonna lose everything. So now it's the same thing. Like this is something that they desperately need and want. I can step in with authority. And what do you want from a doctor? You want a doctor to lead, guide, and direct you. You don't want to go to the doctor's office and the doctor's like, hey, do you want to put a robe on? You're like, God, I've never thought about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Why do we put a robe on in the first place? Heck, I don't know, but do you want to put one on? Well, should I put one on? Or are you gonna like, do you want to, hey, I got this medication. Do you want to take it? I don't know. Should I take it? Like you instantly don't even want to talk to the doctor. You're like, dude, you're an idiot. Give me a new doctor. I want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You need to be assumptive. And now when you get the objection, and the objection cost you could be like, um, you know, I just wanted to quote. Well, now it's not an objection because you're going through an assumptive filter of that they've already made a buying decision. This is the most important thing they can get. Now you look through it and through that filter, you're like, oh, that's not an objection. They just need clarification. They
Yeah.
just don't understand the process. Just like a
Mm.
doctor, if the person's like, well, do I need to do I have to start that medication tomorrow? Well, will cost you. You do because you need to get it in your system right away, especially given the fact, boom, 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 boom. And this is what's going to happen if you don't. So here's, and then you move forward, and it's no big deal. The doctor's like, oh my God, I got an objection to overcome. They don't want to take it tomorrow. They want to wait
Yeah.
until Wednesday. No, they just clarify. And they assume that now that they've clarified, they're going to move forward and do the very thing that they advise them to actually do. And it's the same thing as an agent, man. So dude, so good, man. I've enjoyed this. Like I literally, Koski, I've done this for a long time, like podcasts like this. So when I say this, it means something. Like I think you're probably one of the best I've ever had on when it comes to mindset and breaking this down in the last like 10 years. Like, dude, you're so good, dude. You get it. And not just you get it, dude, you're a very good communicator in helping those understand what it is to do to actually get it themselves. And so, as you wrap up, any last tip that you'd give anybody related to this topic that would help them kind of go out there and make this the best week that they've ever had as a producer?
Yeah. I would say, I think to kind of go back to the first thing that we touched on, Paul. Um, my dad always used to say, and he's a pastor, but he always used to say, you only truly believe that which draws you to action, right? So I don't really believe something. I don't really trust something unless it draws me to action. Okay. And ultimately, that's what we need as sales professionals, right? As closers, right? That's what closers have. Closers have the mentality that, hey, I believe so much in my system, in my process, in what I do that it's not a question of whether or not it's going to happen. The only question is, am I going to do what it takes and am I going to have the leads, right? I had I decided to write business full time in September. And the night that I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for it because I haven't like written full time for probably a little over a year now. And I remember sitting there and doubting myself for 30 seconds. And I was like, bruh, I'm tripping, dog. I'm like, I know what happens. Let me go buy some leads. So I bought like $3,000 of leads. Next day, I went 0 for my first three. Start having those thoughts of like, oh crap, oh no. And then I closed four in a row. And I'm like, all right, cool, we're back, right? But the point there is I had that, I call it conviction. I'm so convicted in my process that I just did it, right? There was no question, there was no doubt. And that's what we all need to build as sales professionals is a conviction in our process. And you got to understand that, to get that conviction, you've got to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's got to feel normal. It's got to feel repetitive, right? And then once you do that over and over, you can build some confidence. From confidence, it evolves into belief. Confidence says, I think I can do this, right? Dude, I think I can write 10K. It's not a problem. Belief says, I can write 10K. Like I've done it before, I can do it again. And conviction is, I will. I will do this. And identify where you're at for all of you guys like listening to this. Identify where are you? Do you need to do the work over and over again? Are you at the confidence stage where you think you can do it? Are you at the belief stage where you've done it, but you're not so convicted that you're going to act? Because some of you guys, you say you know you can do it, but you're not up, you're not working, you're sleeping in, you're not buying leads. Like the actions don't follow through with what you're saying you believe. So you don't really believe it, right? You're not convicted about it. You just think it. You're in that confidence stage. You're like, I think I can do this. But the actions don't back it up. But when the actions start to back it up, you start to prove to yourself, and that's the difficulty with the conviction is you've got to prove to yourself that you can do it. So you start off without that belief. And I have people ask me like, "Hey, how do you build that confidence and that belief?" Dude, you do the work. You overcome. You face adversity. You destroy Goliath, right? You don't run from him. You charge head on and you defeat the giant, and that's how you build that confidence and conviction. So what my last thought would be the most powerful thing I can leave you guys with is get to that stage of conviction to where you're so convicted that it's not a doubt whether or not you're going to act. Like you're going to act and the results are going to be there, but know where you're at and what you need to do to like get closer to that.
Well, dude, I love you. And I want to
You,
just
brother.
talk to you a lot longer. You're definitely going to be a repeat guest. This has been good for me. Like this is like therapeutic for me to like speak to somebody that's got this mindset dialed in because it's just so valuable, man. This is stuff that makes such a massive difference. And I absolutely love that quote your dad said.
Hmm.
You don't really trust something unless it brings you to action. Dude, that's so good.
Yeah.
I think for anybody on here, sometimes, as you get started, because, consistency has to come from, doing the thing and getting results. And some people like, maybe it's 45 days in and they have not got a result. Like they're getting smoked. There's no sales. And like, well, dude, how do I build the trust to compel myself to continue to move forward? I love what the word says. It says we're saved by the blood of the lamb and the word of the testimony. Like
Mm,
sometimes we just need to hold on to others' testimonies, and that allows us to build that trust that compels us to take the action and continuous action, right? And so what does that look like? It looks like stories like you just talked about, Ryan, and writing those stories down. Like when we had, Colin on here and he's like, dude, I went, 90 days without my first sale and now I'm writing 50, 60,000 a month. Well, you
yeah.
write that down. That's a testimony. So now
Mm,
when you're out there and you're struggling, you can go back to those that have already kind of crossed the path and they've gotten to the level that you wanted to go to, but we're in the same shoes that you're in, struggling and what have you, but you hold on to their testimony. I remember when my daughter Parker, had first got diagnosed that the next day after she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, you know, I just like I felt like my trust and belief kind of waning because the emotion and of that news was so great. Even though
mm,
I'm in the word, I'm a man of faith, like I was like, dude, I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this. I feel like I'm living a nightmare. And what I got on and did, it was a post like, hey, could you guys please share with me some of your faith stories, some of your testimonies? Because
mm,
in that moment, I didn't know what action to take because I was frozen with the weight of emotion. What I chose to do was just say, hey, listen, sometimes you need the hall of faith. You need people to share their testimony to build your faith up when yours gets low because of what you're dealing with and the Goliath that you're facing. And I think that for one, that helped me get through it because for the next couple of weeks, I just read all these testimonies of like God's goodness and faithfulness and miraculous healing and all these, and that allowed me and compelled me to be like, all right, I got to step up and make my next best move. And so today, for everybody on here, regardless of where you're at, there's somebody that was in your exact shoes that is now where you desire to go. Get their testimony, write it down, and let that help compel you to build the right trust to take the next best move and make that action that you need to make. And so, Koski, thank you so much, bro. This is definitely one where um, I can honestly say if you haven't already shared this, I don't want to label you, but you're definitely a selfish individual. If you have not shared this podcast with somebody at this point in time, because it's been that good. So make sure to share this with your team, share this with agents, heck, share this with somebody else, even in the industry, just to bless them. Because what goes around comes around, man. This has been so good for me, Kosk. You've provided so much value that I don't even think I got to tell people to share it. They've already done it. Make sure to subscribe to this every week. Our goal and desire is to provide great value, just like we did today. And Koski will definitely have you on in the near future because man, it was that good.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
All right, guys. Well, hey, let's go make it a big week. Be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless you guys.